And welcome everyone to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal, Radio McGill 91.7 on FM cable, and on the internet through the CKUT website, which is at www.ckut.ca. And we welcome you to our weekly half hour of news and information about radio. My name is Sheldon, and Bill is preparing tapes and little tiny, what are those little things?
Mini discs.
Mini discs, where all our little goodies are stored for you.
I hope did you get a chance to check the real audio this morning?
I didn't check it this morning at all, so I hope it is running. It seems to be running quite smoothly now, so we hope that if you're tuned in that way, that you're having no problems this morning, except for your standard breakups. That happens to me all the time when I try out real audio things. So I guess it depends on your computer and a whole bunch of other technical things that have to fall into place. Anyways, it is a kind of a muggy, humid day here in Montreal, and thank goodness there's a little bit of a breeze. I think it's going to rain quite heavily later on.
There is rain in the forecast.
So, anyways, we hope you are enjoying your Sunday morning, and we'll try and get you caught up on a few things going in. I feel like we should both be away on holidays or something. Everybody else is, so why aren't we?
You turn around the Montreal radio dial, and there are lots of people who aren't in places that you'd expect them to be.
Yeah. I think it ties in sort of with radio, though, that the summer ratings periods are practically non-existent, and the ones that are not really sort of looked at as being all that important. So they kind of gear everything up towards the big September ratings period, and I guess they try to squeeze in all the people's vacations, all the big name celebrities at least, and get that done with before they get things cranked up for September.
So you could go through a whole list of people who aren't. Terry DiMonti, I believe, is still gone.
I believe so, yeah.
Rick Peterson is gone at CJD.
Yeah, Bronstetter at CBC.
And the host of All in the Weekend, Shelley Pomerantz, is gone.
Okay.
So you got Tim Belford in for her. Peter Downey doing for Bronstetter on Daybreak. Mm-hmm. And Dave Rosen has been gone for the Traffic this past week.
I read one of the postings that Aaron Rand and Tasso are away for an extended period as well.
And, of course, the people at 990, the morning show.
Yep, which caused a lot of discussion. But the piped-in Toronto show, and actually the Romanek and Richards are the two hosts of the show, and one of them is away even. So we're getting a substitute when it comes to Team 990 this last week and again this week. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's that time of year where you won't find your regular people on the air, and as a result, you'll be hearing a lot of different voices, I'm sure, in different places. I think, as far as I know, the morning crew at 940 News has been around, though. I think Joe Cannon and
I've heard Cannon.
Molly McNeil, I think, was still in.
I've certainly heard Cannon.
Yeah. So maybe they're shifting theirs around a little bit elsewhere. But yeah, it is that time of year. So if your favorite announcer is not around, a good time to sort of poke around the band and see what else is going on out there. But run into other replacements. So don't get attached to anything you might hear right now, because you probably won't be hearing it for a while. So anyways, what else is going on?
It's been kind of interesting this week with all the coverage of the papal visit to Toronto.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
People have been going overboard for it. I think the 940 has had somebody whose name escapes me right now down there. Of course, Father John Walsh from CJD has gone down for it. Mm-hmm. I heard one of his reports this morning on that nighttime vigil sort of thing they did last night. Okay.
I guess somebody is covering this, what they're reporting is going to be a 3-hour mass today.
Yeah, it should be on at the moment. I don't know whether I'm not sure. I was going to check earlier to see whether it was replacing this morning, perhaps on CBC Radio.
Yeah, I didn't think of it until just a few minutes ago. Actually.
Yeah, because CBC Radio did do live coverage on Tuesday of the Pope's arrival at Pearson International Airport.
Mm-hmm, that's right. One station I did flip by this morning, I mentioned it I think last week, was Radio Ville Marie, the Catholic station here in Montreal.
The 91.3.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be carrying it. It would make sense. But other than that, I'm not really sure. But like you said, there certainly was a lot of sort of play-by-play this week going on. Color commentary on the Pope, I guess, or whatever. The great Aislinn cartoon there of the Pope water skiing on Lake Simcoe was just great. Just great. Anyway, so that's certainly drawing a lot of media attention. I heard one or two of the right-wing radio hosts of the U.S. calling it a non-event. They were quite up, sort of didn't want to turn on the TV or anything this week because they didn't want to hear about this. So,
well, it seems that CNN was giving it a lot of coverage.
Yeah, well, that's exactly Howie Carr in particular, who's been really into this, into the whole priest scandals and what have you in the U.S., particularly coming out of Boston, where there's been a lot of this. And he's one of these sort of, I guess we'll call him an ex-Catholic, I guess, is the best explanation for it. And he's been really on that case heavy. And then when this whole thing sort of started, I'm sure he'll have some choice words on Monday.
Too bad he wasn't listening to 940 News last night when they're doing all the coverage of these two New Jersey priests who were arrested for the male prostitution ring here in town.
Exactly, yeah. I thought of that actually.
It actually made WCBS last night around 10 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, that story I heard first thing yesterday morning, I guess. It was in the Journal de Montréal, I think?
It was in the Journal de Montréal yesterday. There's a piece in today's Gazette about it.
Okay.
And, as I said, I checked WCBS around 10 o'clock last night, and it was very prominent.
Yeah.
It was the first local story after the national news at 10.
I heard one news report this morning saying that they believe that the Pope is going to address this issue in this morning's Mass, which I thought would be quite interesting. Almost made me want to listen. I thought, yeah, I'd like to hear what he's going to say about this.
Because he said so little about the whole issue.
Exactly.
Up till now.
Yeah. So it's going to be a big event, that's for sure. Big media coverage today, I'm sure, all over the place.
Yeah.
Anyways, what else is going on out there?
Oh, a few things. One thing kind of locally but internationally, a local radio journalist named Herbert Bopp, who used to be with the RCI German service back in the 80s and early 90s, freelances for Norddeutscher Rundfunk, and won an award, a German media award, for his coverage of 9/11.
Oh, okay.
Because it turns out he was able to get down to New York at the time. And did quite a few reports from there. And I found this. I went looking in the Hudson Gazette to see what they had about Gord Sinclair. But it turns out the Hudson Gazette takes the last 2 weeks of July off.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, there was the piece in there. And sorry, not Norddeutscher Rundfunk, the Westdeutscher Rundfunk. He did a whole bunch of radio stuff for them. So he actually took the train down because, with the airports closed and everything, he took the train down on 9/11 and got into New York, did a lot of reports for German radio, and won a very, very prestigious German media award for it.
Okay. Interesting connection there. You mentioned stories that are sort of semi-local. We were talking this morning briefly. I wanted to bring it up again, just so people can sort of maybe check around and maybe drop us an email if you've got a chance, or if you're on the Radio in Montreal group. We talked about this big media blitz advertising campaign of the Yes FM and Wild Country in Malone, New York. These billboards are showing up in more and more places. I saw the Wild Country one show up on the DeCarry Expressway this week. I'm just curious as to how well people out there are receiving these signals. The Yes FM in particular seems to be quite spotty. A number of people did contact me already and say, why is this station putting such a blitz on when a whole bunch of people can't even hear them? But that doesn't seem to be the case with Wild Country. I was checking them out this week, actually. I guess the billboard advertising worked for me. Anyways, I started tuning them in a couple times this week to see how well they were doing, and was very, very surprised at the quality of the signal.
So these are both based down, around Malone, New York?
Well, WYUL, which is a relay of Yes FM. It's not the real Yes FM station is in Ogdensburg, New York, but the YUL is in Chateauguay, New York, or Chateauguay, New York. I'm not sure how one's pronounced one way and the other one's pronounced another way, the Quebec City version of it. But that one is just a relay of the Ogdensburg station. The country station, though, is in Malone, New York. They have one of these long, drawn-out stretches of different cities that they mention in their on-air ID, and they're really pushing the Montreal angle. I was listening to them on the way in this morning, and mentioning broadcasting from or to I forget what the wording was exactly, but one of North America's greatest cities. So I don't think that's Malone, New York.
I don't even think it's Plattsburgh.
Probably not. So yeah, really heavy targeting of Montreal.
So the frequencies for the
94.7 is for the WYUL or Yes FM as the IDs you'll hear, and 96.5, and the call sign is WVNV, Victor November Victor, and that's on 96.5. So if you can check those out in different areas. I know Gilles Michaud, one of our CIDX members, is a big country music fan, and he's up in Laval, and he gets VNV no problem whatsoever.
So he's out in like Chaumetis, which Western Laval?
Western Laval, yeah. My notorious bad FM reception, I'm still hearing VNV quite easily, the 96.5. Yes FM is another story. That I'm not hearing very well at all.
I haven't checked them downtown here because I live just within a few blocks of the station, but I doubt that either of them is penetrating particularly well.
Okay, well, sitting here in the parking lot this morning, the 96.5, the country stay, Wild Country is their slogan, was just booming in, so you might want to.
But then again, it's that old thing of why are car radio so much more sensitive than regular household radios?
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting difference between the quality. But anyways, check those out in different parts of the city. I'm sure the stations themselves. The one other thing I heard about the country station 96.5 is that they're live now on the internet and pushing that as well. In your car, in your home, and now in the office is the slogan they're using there. So anyways, check those two out. They are reported to be opening or have opened a Montreal office for these radio stations. And this part of the advertising blitz they're on right now with the float that appeared in the Canada Day parade, for example, with the for Yes FM with the big sign down the side of it saying Nix the Mix, which of course is targeting Mix 96. That part of it I really don't understand, because if you're already listening to a mix format radio station, why are you going to go to another one that's basically doing the same thing? That's a little bit different. With the country, it's a different story.
Yeah, the country is a different type of music.
Yeah.
With the mix, I don't know. Maybe are they doing a mix of music that's notably different?
Well, they wouldn't be guided by the Canadian content, for one thing. If that
could
would
be.
If that's going to make a big difference to you or not, I don't know. But that I always find a little strange. It's like Star 92 in Burlington and CFQR. Why are you going to choose one over the other? There's not really a big difference between them. So interesting, but they really seem to be putting a lot of money into this, apparently looking at hiring some bilingual staff for the station. So, definitely getting very aggressive into the Montreal market. So check them out, drop us a note or whatever, let us know, just how well you're hearing them and where you are, so we can sort of try to get a bit of a coverage map going.
Yeah, because a lot of times for those US FM stations just across the border, the West Island tends to get them a lot better than other areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, geographical location.
Yeah, it's a fairly flat shot across there.
Yeah. So again, it's 94.7 for the WYUL or Yes FM, and 96.5 for Wild Country WVNV. All right. What do you have?
Chorus.
Yes.
Chorus Entertainment.
Not singing choruses.
No, this is CORUS, the company which is involved heavily in various media outlets, including some of Montreal radio stations, such as 940 News, Info 690 and all that. The earnings put out their latest earnings statement on Wednesday, and they weren't doing nearly as well as was expected. Their third quarter earnings were 3 cents a share. They've been compared with a First Call / Thompson Financial Protection of 38 cents.
Ooh.
Had some problems with some a German television company which was buying a lot of their products, which has been having some financial problems, so they weren't buying as much and that sort of thing. However, Chorus does say that local radio advertising is up from 138 million a year earlier to 149.4 million now, which they're looking at as being a bit of a help, but it's not everything.
Yeah, they have what the news stations and Q92 in Montreal.
Yeah.
And what would they have on the French side? Which one would be theirs?
C'est quoi?
C'est quoi? That's right. Well, there's a big money maker apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
But anyway, they may be getting a little more money too, because it turns out that Chorus owns a 70% stake in one of these specialty TV channels called Country Canada. The CBC owns the other 30%, but now the CBC is buying out Chorus. The board of directors of the CBC decided that on July 22nd. So Chorus will get, I don't know how much money they're going to get out of that, but they'll be getting something, certainly.
Okay. All right. Well, we've gone a little bit past halfway here, so let's take a short break, come back with the weather and the rest of our show for you today.
Oh, the mini disc is...
It's playing, but
it's playing, but it's not coming through the board.
Oh, okay. Well, that happens.
Oh, well. Such is life.
Yep.
Anyway, you are listening to CKUT 90.3 FM, 91.7 on the cable, and on the World Wide Web. We hope it's working at Real Audio at ckut.ca. And anyway, there's showers. Let me try this again and see if it'll work.
Yeah, okay.
See if I can find something different and see how it goes.
CKUT. CKUT.
Let's get acquainted with the sounds of different frequencies. And perhaps I should have mentioned before that it's essential for your tuner to be connected to
CFM
radio.
Sounds terrific.
There, it sounded terrific. Anyway, it's now 10:48 Montreal, 14:48 UTC, and you were mentioning showers earlier, and there are indeed showers in the forecast. Haven't started yet, thank heavens. Showers beginning this morning, and we still have another hour and 12 minutes. Risk of a thunderstorm, higher 26 with an ultraviolet index of 3, which is low. Tonight, cloudy with a 60% probability of showers. Risk of a thunderstorm, foggy locally and a low near 20. And tomorrow, Monday, variable cloudiness with a 40% probability of showers. A high near 30 with winds southwesterly 15 to 30 kilometers an hour.
All right. That is the kind of miserable, muggy weather forecast for you for later today. All right. You were poking around this morning and sent me an article from the National Post, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, yesterday's, the weekend edition of the National Post, which came out yesterday, has on the front page of its review section
There it is.
Reach over and grab it.
Hold it up to the microphone.
Yeah. A profile of Adrian Mills, who became, just about a year ago now, the head of programming for CBC English Radio. It's called A Rebel's Quest to Transform CBC Radio. So anyway, it's a fair-length article, including a photo of the guy.
There he is.
There he is. Photo's not the best. But anyway, it's on the National Post website if you don't have access to the printed edition of the paper, and you can go if you look on the links on the left side of the National Post thing, go to the review section, which is one of their weekly Saturday sections, and it's on the front page of the review section, section B1, if you have the printed copy of the paper.
Interesting that he sort of walked into the baptism of fire not long after starting September 11th.
Exactly, and that's the fact the story leads off with that, and the fact that CBC Radio 1 was a little slow to go over to wall-to-wall coverage of 9/11 at the time, because they were in the middle of This Morning.
Yeah.
Or at least This Morning running to them, yeah.
Yeah, that certainly would have got yourself well entrenched into what radio was all about when a major story breaks. It's going to be interesting to see how there's been a lot of talk in the television media this week about what's going to happen come September 11th anniversary, and I guess the radio side of it's going to be kind of interesting to follow as well.
Probably
should be quite a major media coverage event, and different people are looking at it in different ways as to just how to approach it. So should be something to look forward to on September 11th radio wise as well.
Something else interesting on the CBC this week was news that was put out on, I guess, Wednesday here, that they found a host for the first part of this new morning show that they're running. As we've mentioned before, the This Morning show, which is currently on the air from 9 to noon on weekdays, will be disappearing. Instead, there will be two network morning shows, one starting at 8:30 and running to 10, which will be very topical, very current affairs, very event-driven and oriented, and then a 10 to noon show, which will be more feature-oriented. We've known for a while that the Sheila Rogers, who currently hosts This Morning, will be doing the 10 to noon slot. Well, the 8:30, the CBC announced this week that the 8:30 to 10 show is going to be hosted by Anna Maria Tremonti, who's been active most recently with CBC with television on the Fifth Estate program. But she started with CBC Radio in Fredericton in 1981, moved in really sort of full-time into television in 1987 when she joined the National. She did various forms of foreign reporting. She covered the fall of the Berlin Wall, the war in Bosnia, various things. It was stationed in places such as Berlin, London, Jerusalem, and Washington. And more recently, as I said, been on the Fifth Estate. But she'll be taking over the 8:30 to 10 show, still unnamed, and there's been very little information out about these. If I'm not being terribly specific about what each of these two morning shows is going to be about, that's really about all we know.
Yeah, exactly. They're sort of not playing the cards yet, I guess, or they haven't decided yet. One or the two.
That is also touched upon in that profile of Adrian Mills in the National Post.
Yeah, well, and that, of course, is going to cut back a half hour of the of daybreak here in Montreal, at least in the morning shows.
The morning shows all across the country will be ending at 8:30 instead of 9.
Yeah. So that's I find that a little strange that they're doing that.
Yeah, I'm not fond of that. I must admit I don't know Anna Maria Tremonti. The name is vaguely familiar, but.
Yeah, I've certainly seen her reports.
I may have heard some, because I think some of her reports have ended up on radio as well. But I'm not really familiar with her work. I'm just quite frankly happy that they didn't choose Ralph Ben-Mergui, as had been long rumored. Anyway, this to show you just how CBC is kind of screwed up on this, the 10 to noon show with Sheila Rogers will be starting as of October 14th. The 8:30 to 10 show will be starting November 18th.
What do they do in the meantime?
Good question.
We'll worry about that when we get to it. Maybe they'll still have some summer reruns going or something. More Sheila Rogers. Why?
Why not?
What else? Yeah, they do tend to. She does tend to pop up whenever there's a gap somewhere showing along the way. So we'll see if that's what they do there. But yeah, it is a long, drawn out process in getting to the bottom of this final scheduling thing. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And everything else will be. I mean, that's well beyond major ratings periods at that point in time. You would have thought maybe they could have got things geared up for September as well, but obviously not.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about what they're going to do with the Saturday schedule, because as you know, the
Basic Black
is gone. Definitely Not the Opera apparently is not coming back. At least the host of it is not, and I believe they're using that as an excuse to get rid of the show. So.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, I guess, programming at CBC Toronto right now is a busy place, if they're not all on vacation. I'm
sure. Something that I had seen on the Milkman Unlimited site, which is a site that, among other things, gives a lot of radio-related news from across Canada, and was also brought up on the Radio Montreal site too, was that the team format of sports networks across the station lost one of its affiliates late last week.
That's right, in Peterborough.
Yeah, the 1420 CKPT in Peterborough is no longer carrying the team format. They switched over to the best music of all time from the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. This is, I guess, the first reaction after the hatchet job that went on at Chum headquarters with all these network. This is the way of the future. Network sports for Canada didn't pan out, and they cleared house with all of those directors. Is this the first feedback from that? I don't know. There's not a whole lot said about it, really.
No, and it makes me wonder personally what the chances of an all sports network station are in a very small market.
Mm-hmm.
Because Peterborough is it's not a huge place.
That's for sure.
I mean, it's not a tiny town. It's a university town and all that sort of thing. But it's not a major city.
Would they? I don't know. I guess they'd be in earshot of Chum 1050.
I would think Peterborough would.
Yeah, more than likely.
More than likely.
So this was one of the complaints actually with some of these stations. I know there was quite a groundswell of complaints out of Kingston.
Oh, very much so. And I remember last year when the switch was made, the Kingston Whig Standard was carrying stories like talking about the people who were let go in the changeover, and like a month later, what are they doing now? One of them was working in a supermarket to put food on the table and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and like you said, in a small market where there aren't, major league sports to certainly, although that doesn't really apply that much here in Montreal. But
it hardly applies in Toronto.
Yeah, that's true. Right now, yeah. But it's odd that they added the Edmonton station to the network just a couple months ago, and now they turn around and drop this one. Mm-hmm. Watching the smaller markets will be the sort of the key right now.
The Kingston one too, the Kitchener-Waterloo.
Yeah, because some of those certainly, maybe even Kingston. I'm not sure the ground wave coverage.
Yeah,
of
how far
1050
can get during the day.
Yeah, it's possible though. I think that they might still get that. So.
And could this sort of thing have any effect even on Montreal?
Well, there's a lot of speculation.
Yeah,
a lot of speculation. They don't seem as committed to the format yet as something like Chorus is with 940 News and Info 690 here in Montreal. Mm-hmm. They've more or less stated that they're giving them 3 years at least to develop the format. There's a lot of speculation that the sports is not going to hang on that long unless it does something very quickly, and it certainly doesn't look like it will. Not at this point anyways. So, is there a restructuring coming of sort of more local programming into these network stations? That's been one of the items that's been talked about and speculated with letting these network, the people who thought that network was the way to go, national network, those people now gone are the people coming in to replace them, again, who we haven't heard anything about up to this point in time. Looking at continuing the sports network, doing it with more local programming, etc. Who knows? Not a very good sign, I guess, right off the top to see one of their stations disappear. So, but that's not going to do much for the Peterborough market as far as employment, I would think. Probably a canned format of oldies, I would think.
Most likely, whether they're pulling it off of satellite or whether it's sort of being packaged, it's not something that's going to bring put a whole lot of people in front of microphones.
Yeah, and interesting because that those sorts of formats are disappearing from AM in Canada. AM is disappearing in Canada practically in many cities.
Although maybe it's somebody looking at the success of 740 in Toronto.
Yeah, maybe they've got some other plans. You could easily slot in an oldies format for a little while. Mm-hmm. Maybe just biding your time until you develop something else that you want to do. So anyway, something to watch, and certainly something to watch with the Team Network to see how the rest of the country radio stations pan out in the next little while.
Mm-hmm.
Little while? We don't have a little while left.
No.
We have no time left. We have reached the top of the hour. It is 11 Eastern, and we have Len Dobbin waiting to come in. His program is called Dobbin's Den, and it is jazz for the next 2 hours on CKUT. We want to tell you how to get in touch with us. A couple ways to do that. One is by telephone after the show, area code 514-398-6787. Number 1 into the station's voicemail, then 2601 in the pound sign for our local. And if you want to drop us a note about the coverage of those 2 stations we were talking about, or anything else for us, via email, radioreport@yahoo.com. Radioreport@yahoo.com is our email address. That's it for us today, and thanks for joining us. We'll do it all again. I will do it next week.
You will do it next week. I won't be here.
That's right. I'm not sure if we'll have somebody in with... we'll keep it a surprise. I will be here, but maybe someone else will be with me. We'll see. So tune in then on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal, Radio McGill.
Bye-bye.